Well, good morning, everyone. It is so great to be here with so many of our incredible Calgary candidates. And I just want to say that I appreciate all of your support and all of the hard work that these folks have been doing as we come to the final days of our campaign to build a better future. So I want to begin by acknowledging that we are gathered here on the traditional territory of the signatories to Treaty 7, and also acknowledge the Métis people who share a very deep connection with this land. So friends, my name is Rachel Notley, and I am running to be your Premier. Today and over the weekend, the UCP, they're going to throw everything that they've got to try and persuade you that Danielle Smith should be Premier for the next 4 years instead of me. But in their hearts, I think, even they know that she shouldn't be. You and I share Alberta's mainstream values. Danielle Smith does not. So this time, in this election, I urge you to vote to make sure the values we share, the sensible, stable, moderate values of Alberta's majority, are reflected in our government. I've been going all across this province, listening to Albertans, and I'm becoming more and more confident that we are going to win this election. On Monday, Albertans are going to choose a new government and a better future for our province. And when that happens, here's where we'll start. First, we will introduce 3 critical pieces of legislation to save families money, to create good-paying jobs, and to protect Albertans' retirement security. We will pass Bill 1, an act to save Albertans money. This will save the vast majority of Albertans nearly $1,000, and many, many families will save considerably more than that. Power prices are expected to spike this summer, so we'll cap them. And we'll pay off the debt that Danielle Smith plans to pile onto those bills right now. And then also, we'll launch an investigation into electricity prices to improve competitiveness, reliability, and affordability for Alberta's electricity market in the long term. We'll freeze car insurance premiums, and we'll reindex and raise benefits for seniors, for families, and for Albertans on AISH. We'll freeze tuition and reverse the latest round of UCP tuition cuts for students, and we'll introduce the Kids Activity Tax Credit to put money back into the pockets of parents, so their kids can pursue the sports, music, dance, and other extracurricular activities that help them to grow and learn and enjoy life. This is a real investment in long-term affordability so that Albertans will see savings permanently on an ongoing basis. Second, we will pass Bill 2, the Alberta Investment Certainty Act. This will set Albertans up for stronger economic growth and targeted job creation. We'll repeal Danielle Smith's job-killing Sovereignty Act and restore Alberta's reputation as a sure bet for return on investment. We'll expand petrochemical incentives, attracting more investment in developing and upgrading our natural resources. And we'll introduce new tax credits to support investment in emerging sectors like new technology, digital media, value-added agriculture, and tourism. We'll also eliminate the small business tax to help entrepreneurs all across this province. Taken together, we anticipate this strategy will create 47,000 good-paying jobs for Albertans well into the future. So third, we'll pass Bill 3, the Canada Pension Protection Act. This one is simple. We will never leave the Canada Pension Plan. Albertans' pensions will be protected from any meddling by politicians of any party. This is a core promise I've made to Alberta seniors, so I will keep it straight away. Those now are the legislative actions of our government, the first 3 bills that we will introduce and pass this summer. But we've also heard loud and clear from Albertans that their top concern is the state of our healthcare. Yesterday, 190 emergency room physicians spoke out about this. And we don't need legislation to get to work right away on delivering better health care for all Albertans. We'll launch our work to establish 10 family health team clinics and immediately establish locations in communities with the greatest need, like Lethbridge, the Bow Valley, and right here in Calgary, where it's next to impossible for Albertans to find a family doctor. We'll immediately establish an incentive for interested family physicians and clinics to open on evenings and on weekends, so families have better access to doctors after hours. And, of course, we'll expand medical coverage, providing free shingles vaccines for eligible seniors and, as promised, free prescription contraception. And when it comes to things we need to work on quickly, we also need to make a difference for our students right away, starting in this September. So we will add to the education budget to properly fund enrollment of our children. We'll hire as many teachers and educational assistants as we can this summer, working as quickly as we can to undo the incredible damage done by the UCP to our public education. We'll also restore PUF funding, that important funding that helps our young students who have different learning needs. For example, 6-year-olds who need speech therapy will get speech therapy. And as our education critic and deputy leader Sarah Hoffman promised long ago, we will also engage in a proper, broad review of the curriculum to ensure that we're doing everything we can to prepare our students for their futures. So folks, this is what your government could look like. No fighting with Albertans, no creating controversies, and no chaos. Just thoughtful, common sense, pragmatic leadership, practical leadership focused on the urgent priorities of Alberta citizens. At a time when there are a lot of things to vote against, including corruption, racism, mismanagement, and general mistrust, I want Albertans to know there are also things in this province to vote for. You can vote to restore trust. You can vote to invest in your kids' education. You can vote to lower your monthly costs. You can vote to protect our health care and protect your pension. My message to all of you is this: a better future starts right now. So if you haven't yet, go out and vote. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to take questions from folks who are here.
We're going to start here with questions on location. For those of you that are joining us on Zoom, please use the raise hand function. If you're on the phone, please push *9. Remember to unmute yourself when you're called upon. And for everyone asking questions today, please introduce yourself, starting with name and outlet. And of course, we are, Rachel, we're over to your right. We'll go ahead, Josh.
Josh Aldridge, Calgary Herald. Looking at your 3 pieces of legislation, I think you have costed out some of it. Is there a total costing on it? And would it also be reliant on budgetary processes, or could a lot of those, especially the affordability measures, could those be put forward without passing a budget?
So there's a number of different pieces to our affordability proposal. Some of it can be done without legislation. Some of it can be done by regulation. Some of it does need legislation, which is why we will make that our Bill 1 and make sure that we bring it in to the legislature this summer so that Albertans get the benefit of it right away. The costing varies depending on your circumstances, but on average, the regular Albertan will get about $450 savings from our changes to utility costs and a further $450 from our changes to insurance. Then, depending on other elements in your life, if you have children, you'll get $500 per child for an activity tax credit. If you have children who are going to university, you'll save thousands on tuition. If you are AISH or on any form of income support. You'll receive extensive increases as a result of the increases to those benefits. So it really depends on each family. But it can be as high as $5,000 or $6,000 for one household. But for just regular one individual family or individual, we're looking at about $1,000 per Albertan.
Just to follow up on the pensions, the UCP have promised that if it comes to pensions and pulling out of CPP to create an Alberta provincial pension plan, that it would go to a referendum. Should that not be the choice of Albertans to do with their pensions as they want, as opposed to legislating that this must stay in the CPP? If the opinion of Albertans is they do want to put it into an Alberta pension plan, why take that option away from them?
Because here's the thing, Albertans have said very clearly over and over and over again that they don't want to lose the security that comes with their Canada pension plan. There have been multiple polls. The UCP's own Fair Deal panel surveyed Albertans, and they were told then Albertans absolutely didn't want this. And now what's happening is the UCP is refusing to talk about it in this election, and Danielle Smith is hiding it in this election. And quite frankly, there is absolutely nothing about the way Danielle Smith has spoken to Albertans or the UCP has dealt with elections rules, the elections commissioner, or government use of advertising for anyone to be able to trust that the UCP would run a fair referendum on this issue. It is clear Albertans are worried about their retirement security. They do not trust the UCP to play around with their retirement security. There is no need for there to be a referendum that is manipulated by the UCP after an election. Rather, Danielle Smith should have the courage of her convictions to clearly have a conversation about it now. And the fact that she isn't doing that is strong evidence that Albertans who are concerned about their retirement security need to vote against the UCP in this election.
Hi there, Aaron with Livewire Calgary. How soon after the election would these bills go before the House?
So we haven't actually set a date, but we absolutely are committing that we would get this done this summer. So normally, in the normal course of things, the legislature is recalled in the fall, but we would be going back into the House this summer as soon as we possibly could to get the necessary legislation passed in order to provide relief to Alberta families, to provide certainty to investors, and to provide a security to Alberta seniors.
And on the topic of advanced voting, we've seen that Albertans have overwhelmingly turned out, smashing records over the last 2 days in terms of that. What is your reaction to the interest of Albertans to take advantage of advanced voting?
Well, I have to say that the number of people who are showing up in the advanced polls is incredibly encouraging and exciting for us. We have spoken to so many Albertans who have told us how it is they plan to vote. And so as a result, we know that the vast majority of people who have voted so far are actually people who have told us they're going to vote for us. So that's pretty exciting. And of course, our campaign has been working overtime to really encourage people to get out and vote and to remind people about all the different ways they can. And so we're really excited about what this means for the strength of our campaign.
Hi, Lily Dupuis, CBC News. So the NDP's plan to increase corporate income tax has estimated that this will generate over $6 billion in revenue over the next 3 years. And then economist Trevor Tombe has kind of said that this seems to be maybe an over-calculation, and has said that, $2 billion annually is only accounting for the mechanical effect of corporate income tax increases. And his number that he kind of came up with was $1 billion to $1.5 billion. So I'm just curious, what will the NDP do if if Trevor Toombs' calculations turn out to be correct and we are missing that revenue?
Well, I think, first of all, let me just say that other economists have actually countered the statements made there and actually suggested that our numbers are conservative and reasonable. But, budgets obviously predict certain things. We know that our budget, as it stands right now, has a solid $1 billion surplus built into it. And so we can move forward with our plans, even if it takes a bit longer for that revenue to come in. The same cannot be said for the UCP fiscal plan. The price of oil goes down about by 5 cents, and they're cutting it so close to the line right now that they're going to go into a deficit if that happens. And so, in fact, they are not putting out a responsible plan that gives them enough cushion for the inevitable ups and downs of certain things that go into these plans. And as a result, Albertans should be concerned that their plan will end up being that they have to slash education or slash healthcare funding in order to meet all their promises and continue to balance the budget.
So let's just say that the economists that have criticized that and said that their numbers will be correct, what will the NDP government do to make up for that revenue? Will there be cuts to hiring doctors or teachers or?
No, so the point that I guess I'm making here is that, first of all, there's one economist, and other economists have actually endorsed our numbers and our calculations. But even were that to happen, were that one economist to be closer to correct, we have built in a cushion into our budget so that we would still be able to maintain balance and invest in the plans that we have laid out. And of course, many of the investments that we are making themselves will contribute to growing revenue and growing tax revenue on a number of different fronts. And of course, none of that was actually calculated into our model or into the model that Mr. Toom describes.
Hi there. Catherine Cullen, CBC Radio's The House.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say to Albertans who look at what you're offering and look at what Danielle Smith is offering and say, it seems like she is a lot more willing to stand up to the federal government and protect Alberta's interests?
Well, I would say that my record is very clearly one of standing up for Alberta. And I ask people to judge me on my record. I stood up to colleagues in BC. I stood up to the federal government. And the result of that is that here in Alberta, we have the first pipeline to Tidewater constructed in over 50 years. For all their hot air on this issue over the last many years, neither the PCs nor the UCP can point to a single pipeline to Tidewater under their leadership. So I would say, look at my record. The second thing I would say is that, quite frankly, Danielle Smith is so unpredictable and has engaged in such destabilizing behavior that reflects a profound disrespect for the rule of law, that she is not a credible spokesperson. And it doesn't matter how angry she gets in the course of doing it, she still is not credible as a spokesperson or an advocate for Alberta right now. Because no matter what your politics are, left or right, Canadians respect the rule of law. And Danielle Smith has demonstrated repeatedly that she does not.
I appreciate that you are spending your time thinking about Albertans these days, but what would you say to the rest of the country about what the stakes are in this election?
Well, I mean, I would say much along the lines of what I just said. I mean, we have right now someone who is seeking to lead Alberta who has been found to have broken the law in order to interfere with the administration of justice on behalf of someone who was convicted with a number of behaviors, including inciting violence against police. So if that is something that is allowed to win here in Alberta, I think frankly, it's a bit destabilizing and worrisome for all of Canada. And it's not about Alberta being, standing up for itself or not standing up for itself. It's about questions around credibility and trustworthiness, and competence of leadership.
We're going to go now to questions via Zoom and over the phone. We'll start with Graham Thompson. Graham, please unmute.
Here we go. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, just go back over the timing. If you do win on Monday and form a government, in 2019, after Kenny won, he had the summer of repeal.
Sorry, did I lose you?
Graham, we lost you there. If you can still hear us. Just apologize for 1 second. We seem to have lost a connection. Please bear with us. Graham, can you speak again? Okay, just give us 1 second, please.
How are you guys doing? Looking fabulous. All of you looking very fabulous. What's that? Love that jacket. I like the whole. It's all good. I feel one or two of you have just arrived. Is that nice? No, we just switched. Oh, you just switched one. Yeah. Okay. Pumped for our rallies this weekend? It's gonna be fun. Yeah.
Recording in progress.
Graham, how you doing? Can we hear you?
Yeah.
There we go.
I could not hear any audio at all from Rachel.
So just for everybody on the line, we apologize. We lost our connection for a second. Graham, could you just start your question again, and we'll just get right back to it.
Okay. My question was, briefly, in 2019, after Kenny won the election, he brought in a summer of repeal. Can we expect, if you win on Monday, an NDP version of a summer of repeal?
Well, I think what you can expect is that we will deliver on the commitments that we have made to Albertans. In some cases, that involves repeal. But what I'm talking about today are our foremost priorities, the things that we are going to make sure we get to right away. And it's not about repeal or endorsement or those things. It's about moving forward on the priorities that Albertans have been repeatedly telling us they want us to get to work on right away. So that's why, even without legislation, healthcare and education, we're going to get on that really fast. We're going to be moving quickly to get some of these family health clinics set up as quickly as possible. We're going to be moving quickly to get enough teachers and EAs into our classrooms for September. And then we'll be bringing in the legislation to give cost relief to Albertans and to kickstart some of that economic development work and investment incentive work that we know is so critical. So those are the priorities Albertans are talking to us about. And so it's not really about thumbing my nose at my predecessor. It's about going forward on the basis of an Alberta mandate.
Graham, do you have a follow-up?
Absolutely. So when it comes to the budget, of course, you criticized the UCP's budget. So how important is it for you to bring in your own budget, and how soon would you do that?
We'll take a look at that once we get a look under the hood, whether we need to do sort of a whole separate budget or whether we can wait until the fall and do a mini amendment with supplementary supply. So I know that sounds very wonky, but honestly, it's one of those things where once we get access to the books and are able to sit down and speak with public servants, we'll get a sense then of whether we need a whole different budget or whether we can do it by way of supply legislation in the course of the sitting.
Looks like we have one more question. We're going to go to Catherine Grakowski of Politics Today. Catherine, please unmute.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. So some of the other pieces of legislation you've talked about, Eastern Slopes Protection Act, I know that there's an Anti-Racism Act. Are those planned more towards the fall as opposed to the summer session?
I think, listen, there's a lot of stuff that we're really, really key on doing. It will really depend on how quickly we can get into the House and how long, we want to stay there. And obviously those matters are fundamentally important to us. So the anti-racism one, we will take the time to engage and consult with communities themselves before we bring in the final piece, because I think that's really important to any of that kind of work. So I would expect to see that more likely in the fall, just to make sure that we really are engaging with communities who will benefit from that legislation. In terms of the Eastern Slope Protection Act, that could well be something we also see in the summer for sure, because we are pretty black and white on that. And as you know, we've drafted that legislation at least twice and brought it into the House at least twice. So it wouldn't take a lot of preparation to get that one ready to go.
Catherine, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, and on healthcare, when Danielle Smith became premier, she gave herself a timeline of 90 days, then it was 6 months to fix healthcare. And I'm wondering, are you looking at any timelines for those goals to start to see improvements in the healthcare system?
So my commitment to Albertans is that we will develop those, and we will then report on them regularly in a way that Albertans can hold us accountable. Again, I think that it would be wise for us to talk with, say, for instance, those 180 emergency room doctors or 190 emergency room doctors who wrote a letter yesterday. We really want to engage in a thoughtful and respectful way with so many of our frontline healthcare providers to hear from them about the path forward, and then absolutely we will bring in a frame, and we will make sure that the information that Albertans need to hold us accountable for those targets is made available regularly. So we have absolutely every intention of holding ourselves to account to real standards. But we also want to have the benefit of important advice from our frontline healthcare providers, because trying to pretend we know it all and can do it without talking to them first is kind of a continuation of the problem that we've been experiencing over the last 4 years.
And that's all the questions we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.